Welcome to a very special edition of the Bench podcast with Jenna and no John. In fact, this episode, it's Jenna and Jason. Jason Demetriou, welcome to the Bench. Arrived in the UK just last week. I believe this is your first official interview since taking charge of the London Broncos.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, it is. That's probably the first time you'll hear me say I'm happy to be on the bench.
Brilliant. I love hearing that. Well, thank you so much for coming on and coming into Sky Sports. We'll have you on Sky Sports News a little bit later today as well. I think for our listeners, our viewers, it would be great just to kind of get to know you, talk about your journey to this point, also talk about London Broncos.
Yeah.
So let's start with the Broncos.
Yep.
So you've officially taken charge. You've been here, just over a week. How are you finding it?
Yeah, loving it. Yeah, it's I was saying off air before, London was a place I'd always loved to live. Mm-hmm. Came down here a few times, obviously to play, but also came down here to spend a weekend and things like that, but never got to spend a serious amount of time down here. And yeah, just to experience London itself, I think it's an amazing city, if not one of the best cities in the world. So to be able to live here and do what I love to do, which is coach rugby league and be involved in rugby league, and really excited to be here and privileged to have this position, to be honest.
Yeah, so you've signed on the dotted line for 3 years.
Yep.
What have you been tasked with? So we know Broncos have come out, they have ambitions to get into the top flight next year.
Yeah.
Is that almost you've got to achieve this for 2027 at all costs? What have they said to you?
Yeah, I think, I probably had a phone call about 2 months ago, just over 2 months ago, from Lockie, and I hadn't spoken to Lockie since I left the Broncos. And the first time I got the phone call, I had a message on my phone. It's Lockie, can you give us a ring? And I thought, I did a bit of work for Triple M, and I thought maybe I've been bagging the Broncos or something. So,
Oops.
Which I wouldn't have been doing because they were killing it. But so I rang him back, and he just asked, would I go back to England? And the short answer is yes, I would go back. But the longer answer is, I'd need a few boxes ticked first to get me on a plane to go back. And he said, well, what would they be? And I said, well, I'd want a direct relationship with the owners. Mm-hmm. I'd want to know that there's a business plan to grow the club, not just on the field, but off the field. And I'd want to know that there's a long-term investment. And like he said, would you come up to Brisbane and meet Grant and sit down with us and we'll explain what we're trying to do. We're looking at purchasing the London Broncos. And I said, are you serious? And I thought he was joking, and not joking, but I thought, well, he can't be serious, because it's a big leap of faith, a huge leap of faith. But I've always felt that the game over here needs a strong presence in London. So flew up to Brisbane, and I was blown away by their enthusiasm, their professionalism, and their plans for what they wanted to do in London. And couldn't wait to sign on the dotted line and be part of this exciting venture. I think for me, it's the investment they're doing in. As I said before, it's a privilege to be given the opportunity to lead that investment. And spoke to the boys about it before. We represent London, and it's, we're one of the only sporting teams in the city that's called London.
Yeah.
And that comes with a lot of pride and a lot of privilege. And our time now is to do things that maybe we haven't done before, that to engage a community, to get rugby league on the map in London. And to do that, we've got to win. And that's what I'm tasked with. I'm not under no illusions that we want to build a roster that builds a winning culture. And so when we get an opportunity to get back in Super League, that we're ready to not only play Super League, but to compete with the top clubs.
So let's go back to Darren Lockyer, who you're talking about, part of the new ownership group alongside Grant Weschel. To have a rugby league legend, a rugby league immortal linked with the game over here, I mean, the London Broncos as well, as you touched on, the importance of having a London presence in the top flight is massive. I think the game is better when you have that presence, when you have a strong London Broncos. So just alone, having somebody like Darren Lockyer attached to the club, what can that do for the game in the Northern Hemisphere?
Well, it gives us exposure, that's for sure. And I know, having gone through a huge recruitment drive over the last 2 months, which has been crazy, but absolutely enjoyed being part of that experience as well, and navigating how we pull a squad together in 6 weeks. And
how challenging is that? I mean,
it's a challenge, big challenge. But Not only for now, but making sure that we've given ourselves room to grow. And I think that was one of the things I was really conscious of, that I didn't want to just build a side for now that we couldn't grow with over the next 2 years, 3 years, So that's an important part of the way we put the squad together, but also was about getting the right people that were committed to doing the things that we need them to do to grow this brand. But yeah, Lockie's experience and his, I suppose his standing in the game obviously helps when it comes to recruitment. And when you listen to Lockie speak about this adventure or this venture in the Broncos, obviously he has that Broncos tag that comes with him. But yeah, when you hear him and Grant and Gary Hetherington as well, talk about the Broncos and what they see in the future, you can't help but get excited. I don't think there's been a player we've spoken to that hasn't immediately said, "Yeah, I'm keen, let's go."
Yeah.
It's been very well received, and as said before, living in London it's really something that players and their partners, they're really keen on experiencing. So, we've just got to build a club that on the field people want to come and play for as well.
So let's touch on recruitment then. So Regan Campbell-Gillard, one of the biggest signings. Let's visit him first. So what will he bring? Obviously experience. He's a huge name. He's a brilliant player. So how excited are you to have somebody of his calibre on the books? Yeah,
there was a few key areas we wanted to touch on when we were building the side, and having that forward leader was a big part of that. And when Regan, came available, there was a chance for us to get him. We got straight onto that, and his attitude towards being part of this has been first class. And even when we found out that we weren't going to be in Super League, there was never once a hesitation from him or his family to get over here and be part of what we're doing. So he's going to add a lot to and we've got some really talented young forwards. So, but he's going to be huge for that, and having a presence on the field. You need someone who's on the field who has that, controls the middle third and has a presence for the rest of the team. And him and Saliva will definitely do that.
When you found out that London weren't going to be in the top flight, how disappointing was that?
To be honest, I wasn't overly disappointed. I sort of was 50-50 on whether I thought we would get in or not. I wasn't, we'll get in, I know there was a lot of investment put into the bid and trying to get us in, but I've been over here a long time and I know how it works, and it doesn't always go the way you think it should go or the way you believe it should go. And to be honest, I think for me as a coach, I prefer where we are now. I think we get to build from the ground up. And you've seen success stories around that with Lee and Leopards and what they've done over the last few years, and my old club, Wakefield. I remember being at Wakefield for years and the threat of relegation and then some people would say, be the best thing for you sometimes to go and reset and start again. And you can clearly see that with what Matt Ellis has done up there, and Darryl Powell, and the way not only on the field but the way the club's grown on the field. So there's some examples there for us to get confidence from and get excited about where we're going.
How much will the club draw upon Wakefield's success and kind of their journey and what they did to achieve what they've achieved in terms of perhaps helping the Broncos do the same?
Yeah, I think we'd definitely tap into that. I need to speak to Matt. I haven't spoken to him yet. I've been meaning to speak to him full on the last few days. But you'd be foolish not to tap into those clubs. And I know that Matt and Wakefield are big supporters of us and what we're trying to do down here. So, building those relationships with other clubs will be important. And you know what it's like over here. The northern clubs don't necessarily want anybody outside the M62 competing in Super League and taking their piece of the pie. But we're here to come and get a piece of that pie. We're keen to take our fair share.
I love hearing that, Jason. Something else that I am really enjoying seeing, and I can't wait to see the impact that they'll have on the pitch, is the PNG influence. So as it stands today, I believe 5 Papua New Guinea internationals in the team, but perhaps there's some news you want to break with us here on the bench?
Yeah. Jeremiah Simbakin from Castleford, PNG international, missed this year's series through injury, but he's signed and he'll be heading over here. His partner's about to have a baby any moment now in Australia, but he'll be here around Christmas time. And, really excited to get Jerry over here. He'll be important for us. And not only that, but his experience. He's had a year here now, so he understands what it's about. And I'm a fan of his. I obviously picked him in the national side, but I like what he brings, and I'm looking forward to getting him over.
So tell us about the other 5 as well then that you're bringing across with you. You're the PNG national head coach, so you know them well.
Yeah.
What can we expect?
Yeah, they're very different. I think over the last couple of years, there's been a bit of an evolution about how the Kumuls play their footy, and through that, guys like Maria and Gyro Voro, who played 6 and fullback for us this year, they're lightning quick, attacking machines, very, they're kind of players that the crowd sit up on their seat when they get the ball in their hand, and, they're very different to your, stereotypical Papua New Guinea boys who are built like granite and run over everybody and hit hard. They're more finesse and speed, and Apel Capianis, who's joined us as well in big front rower, who's a bit of a leader for us in the Kumuls this year, comes over. He'll give us some punch and some support for Regan as well up front. And Finley, he's a 9 who can play 7 as well, but he's sharp out of 9, very smart, and I like him into Edwin, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he develops. Edwin's been a great role model for a lot of PNG boys over here. And
Edwin Apapo, of course, you're talking about.
Yeah, and he's having him in the Kumuls camp, and how his conversation with those boys who come over here, and all the PNG boys that are here that have played, that are playing now and have played in the past that are still here, have all reached out to the PNG boys. So there'll be a fair community of Papua New Guineans over here for sure.
And with the World Cup next year, I know that you're quite keen on perhaps having a bit of a mid-season international England up against PNG. How likely do you think that is?
I'd like to say likely, but we play each other in the World Cup now, so I don't know if that affects it. For me, it doesn't. I think it'd be great for both nations to have a hit out against each other, and I know there's a bit of an issue in and around scheduling with Super League, but we can do it on a weekend when players might have to miss a Super League game or a championship game for whatever reason it is. But I just think World Cup's a big deal. We've got 2 games in Papua New Guinea, and to have a game in the lead up mid-season would be massive for us, and it would be for England as well. They've come off a tough series, so getting out there and building their World Cup campaign again rather than wait until they get to Australia, I think it'd benefit them. But like I said, we're ready. Yeah. If they want to have a game, then let's play.
There you go. Bring it on. It's something that I know that we would love to see as well, and a lot of fans would love to see that too. Jason, London Broncos. What is their playing style going to be under you? What is this Broncos side's mentality as their head coach?
Yeah, I think the big thing for me was understanding where the game's going and how it's played now. It's played a lot faster than it has been over recent years, particularly in Australia, and speed is important to you, and we've recruited a lot of that. We're quick, we're big, but we want to be physical as well, and we need to be. I've spoken to the players about that early in the year. The game's different over here in the early months in the cold, and a bit more of a forward battle. We've got to be prepared to play physical, but I want us to play an exciting brand as well. We need to represent London, and the way to do that is to play in a brand of footy that people want to come and watch, and that's where we're at the moment, being able to play some exciting footy. We're trying to build that, and hopefully over the next 6 to 8 months you'll see that.
A London side has been kind of around since I think the 1930s. We've seen the story unfold. We've seen London go up to the top flight. We've seen them go back down. We've seen them come up, go back down. We were just talking about that off camera. Why is it going to be different this time? Yeah,
I think it's, we've had some fantastic owners at the club that have invested a lot of money, and that investment's always gone into the playing group and putting the best roster on the field they can. But I think at the moment, with Lockie and Grant's business background, they're really invested in building it as a business and trying to generate it as a profitable business. And I think if we can do that and tap into the corporate market in London, that gives us some sustainability to then grow the team off the back of that. And obviously by doing that, you're engaging in the community and you're bringing the people along the ride for you. So I think that's a slight difference, but ultimately we need to do a few things different. We need to engage the community in terms of our academies, and we need to grow our academy so that we're producing London players. And, I came through at the back end of my career where some really talented London players came through, the guys, like McCarthy Scarsbrook and Tony Clubb, and all those guys who came through around that era and had long, successful careers. And I've seen already just in my week and a half here that there's some real talent that have come up from the championship with us, and some young guys. But there's so much out there, and I think what I would like to do is try to build an academy in certain regions, in several regions around London. Yeah. It's such a big city, so rather than sticking ourselves into one area, try to grow, and try to have as many academies as we can. It's a bit similar to what the P&G side are trying to do over there, and trying to grow the Pathways program. So I think the more we can engage communities, and there's, London's such a diverse city, very similar to Sydney, and with that diversity comes ethnic groups that are really suited to playing rugby league. So if we can tap into those guys, then it helps us grow in the future.
I also believe, is there more breaking news in terms of training facilities? You mentioned academy reserves, first team are all going to be training the same venue. Yeah. Are we able to disclose this information on?
Getting a lot out of us today.
I just.
We've become the anchor tenants at Hazelwood, which is a fantastic facility. You can tell from the boys who've been at the club for a while how impressed they are by walking into the facility. And it's got a state-of-the-art gym. There's 4 full-size footy fields, so it's got everything we need, and it's got the capability for us to grow and make that our home. So we're really excited to be there in around the community. And it's not far from Wimbledon, our home ground as well. So, yeah, hoping to base ourselves there for quite some time.
Okay, so that's London Broncos kind of boxed off for now anyway. I want to talk about you, because how does a kid from Sydney, Jason, end up playing over here? How did your playing journey kind of unfold and lead you to the UK?
Yeah, it's I grew up in Sydney in the St George area, and Campbelltown, as that's where I started playing, and then moved out to the St George area in my early teens and played all my junior footy over there, and probably didn't grow and mature and develop as much as I would have liked to. Still got a nickname Little Jace when I hang out with my teammates. But, so then the opportunity came. I met my wife now, who's my girlfriend at the time, and she has Scouse parents who've got a lot of family over in the UK, and I was coming up to finishing my trade, and they said, you should come over. So, yeah, packed my bags, bought a one-way flight, and funny enough, nearly signed at London when Les Kiss was coaching. Yeah, agreed.
So what is this, like 999?
That was the end of, so it would have been for the 2000 season.
Okay.
Les Kiss was in charge at the time, and he said I was going on holiday with his wife, and when he gets back, we'll get it all signed off. And when he came back, he rang me and said that his wife and family had decided to go back to Australia. So he offered me opportunity to stay and sign with the reserve grade with the Northern Eagles, and I've bought my ticket. I'm going.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, off I went, and I ended up landing at Lancashire Lynx back in the day, and played 10 games there, and did enough to get picked up by Rochdale for the rest of that season. And then that's when I got my lucky break, really. I was fortunate to sign under David Hume at Widnes. And back then, very different to what it is now. I mean, you could only have, it was 2, and it got dropped to 1 overseas player. And unless you had a British passport, you weren't classed as quota. But yeah, so I was the only overseas player signed at Widnes. And Neil Kelly came in halfway through that year, and we went on to win and get promoted in the Super League. And spent 2 more years, my first 2 years playing Super League at Widnes, and loved every minute of it. Yeah, and then I got an opportunity to go and play at Wakefield, where I made a home there for seven years, captain the club for 5 years.
I think you were the first captain that didn't have NRL experience in the top flight. Yeah, that's an amazing achievement in itself too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, they're kind of things you look back on now. You didn't really think about it too much at the time, but learn a lot. Love my time at Wakefield, and still see the club and hold it in high regard. So really love my time there, and finished my playing career and exhausted every ounce of cartilage I could out of my knees before I got opportunity to go to Keighley.
Yep.
I actually signed as a player and assistant coach at York first, but I was keen to get into coaching. It was always something that I wanted to do, and then got a phone call from Keighley to come and have a meeting there, and ended up taking the role there, and pushed myself to play for another 2 years. played coach there for 2 years. Fortunate to win the championship one, and get promoted and get beaten the finals the following year. And then I got the opportunity to go back to Australia, which would, something that I was keen on doing. I had a young family at the time, and I swapped North England for Cairns. Went up to Cairns and coached the Cowboys feeder team for 2 years.
That was 2013?
2013, yeah. Fortunate to win the premiership in 14 first at the Queensland Cup.
Yeah. And
that got me an opportunity to go to the Cowboys in 2015 and, win the premiership there. And then back down to Sydney at the Dragons, the club I grew up in, the district I grew up in. So
my club as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was crazy to be able to go back to the Dragons after leaving in 13 years or 16 years earlier by that time, and coach Illawarra Cutters in the reserve grade, and we won that as well that year. So that led to a phone call from Wayne Bennett. And I remember ringing my wife and saying, just got off the phone to Wayne Bennett. And she said, well, what does that mean? I said, well, we might be going to Brisbane. So, packed our bags and off again up to Brisbane for 2 years, and then eventually ended up with Wayne at South, and got an opportunity to be the head coach at South for 3 years, and amazing experience. Coaching at a club like South Sydney, it's such a huge club, big names in and around the place, but that led me to opportunity coaching the Kummels, which I've done over the last 2 years, and then here I am, back here.
You are London Broncos head coach. Just back on Wayne Bennett, I mean, one of the greatest coaches. How so many questions. So first of all, working under him, what's that like? How do you see yourself as a head coach compared to the way he coaches? Yeah,
I think we're different but the same in some respects as well. Very much player-driven coach, always looking out for very much caring coaches, making sure our players are looked after, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that they can turn up to training without worrying about other things, and they can focus on their footy. And but I would say I'm probably a little bit more technical than Wayne is. Not to say that he's not, because he's don't get to do what he's doing without knowing his way around a footy field, that's for sure. And but we obviously worked really well together. I think in the 4 years we worked together, we had 3 or 4 prelim finals and a grand final. So we did some pretty good things together, and I learned a lot under Wayne. I remember one of the first weeks, the first day I turned up to Brisbane train. I never met him in person. I only spoken to him on the phone, and he was just, the boys were out doing testing or whatever, and I was just standing there. I hadn't had my Broncos kit on yet, and he walked past me once, and he walked past again, and he was looking at me, and I was too shy to say anything. So he was like, "You're Jason, right?" And I was like, "Yep." He said, "Come with me," and we just went for a walk. And he said, "I want you to think and act as a head coach. That's what I brought you here for." And it's the first coach that he'd headhunted in a long time, and that gave me a lot of confidence to express myself with him. And learned a lot, and would have loved to have won a premiership with him in 2021. Very unlucky not to win that against Penrith, and that would have been a great way to finish our time together. But still in contact with him now. He keeps in touch occasionally. I'm not big on the phone, neither is he. So we touch base occasionally.
So 2022, you succeeded him as head coach at South Sydney. How challenging is that, coming in to kind of replace somebody who is so well respected in the game, who has achieved so much? How much of a challenge is that? And I suppose, is there pressure immediately before you even put on that head coach role?
Yeah, there is. Yeah. Obviously, it comes with that. And in Australia, the press will talk about all the coaches that haven't succeeded under Wayne. And I still get tagged with that now, even though we went to a prelim final. We were top of the table after my first 40 games in charge in 23. So succeeding Wayne had no impact on how my time at South finished. It actually prepared me well to take on that role, and it was difficult at first because we were still in the COVID times. I remember my first pre-season, the players couldn't turn up till the end of January because we had COVID ran through us all. We tried to do a pre-season camp in Taree and had to turn around after one day and come home because someone got COVID. I think it was Tom got COVID, Burgess. So it was. And we had a tough start, which South always get a tough start in the draw. And I knew like the pressure was going to be on if we didn't jag some wins early, and we were 0-2 and then had a great win against our arch rivals, the Roosters, and that sort of set us up a little bit. But we had Latrell Mitchell and Cameron Murray missed a huge chunk of the first half of that season, and we were sitting, in the 8, but just in the 8. Got those two guys back and had a fantastic run into the finals, and we beat the Roosters, our arch rivals again. I missed the first game at Allianz because of COVID. I had COVID, so the first game at Allianz was actually the last round of the year. And there was nothing wrong with me. I had a cold.
Isn't it crazy when you go back to that COVID point? Yeah. You just wonder if you do things the same now. Like, it's just mental what we all had to do and the way that we had to live.
Yeah, we had a shoe zone. You had to leave your shoes at the top of the stairs. You couldn't wear. And you had COVID shoes
every
you could wear in the building.
Yeah. Every time the football went into the crowd, it had to get sprayed.
Washed,
it was crazy times.
Yeah, so it was. Look, I had strong relationships with the playing group already, so I wasn't worried about it or stressed about it. I was accepted that the pressure's there, and any head coach in the NRL, there's so much media interest now in and around the game over there, and rightfully so. They pay a lot of money to the clubs and to the game, so yeah, it was just one of those things. And when we got beat by Penrith in the prelim final and led that game 12-0, and we ran out of troops in the end. But yeah, it was a fantastic season, and yeah, enjoyed it.
Yeah. So your time at South Sydney, it came to an end. Probably didn't end the way you wanted it to end. How do you reflect on that period?
Yeah, I think for me, it's such a brutal industry at times. I mean, I signed a new 3-year contract extension and was gone in 7 weeks. So, but for me, I don't sit back and dwell on things too much. I would rather just review and look at what I did and how I was as a coach. And you do at times get affected by the things that go on in and around it. And I'm a much better coach now than I was then. That's for sure. Through going through that experience.
Yeah. And of course, one of the big talking points was Sam Burgess, club legend. He's now over here coaching Warrington. So much media around what happened there. Have you spoken to him since he left the club? What's your relationship like with him? Is there a relationship?
Not really. No, I mean, I never really had a relationship with Sam before that. And again, anything that went on was all to do with our working relationship. It wasn't personal. It is what it is. He's off doing his thing now. I'm off doing mine. So we'll see where we land.
So at what point when you were playing did you realise I want to be a head coach?
Yeah, I coached before I came to England. I coached when I was about 17, 18. I started coaching at my junior club with the younger kids, and stayed with them for 5 or 6 years and loved it. And it was always something that I enjoyed doing. And I think captaining a Super League club as well, you sort of lean that way and you have a bit more of a mentoring role with younger players. So it was always something I was keen on doing. My dad was my coach for a long time, and that I don't know if it's in you. I don't think you choose to be a coach. I think it chooses you, and if you're not passionate about it and you don't love doing it, it'll find you out pretty quickly. So yeah, I think it's just something that evolved naturally, but also a lot of work goes into it as well. It takes a lot to develop as a coach, a lot of honesty with yourself as well at times, and I'm fortunate to be able to coach and work in the game that I love. And I've been coaching now since 2011, so well over a decade, where I'm employed to coach full-time in a game that I love. So, it's a real privilege for me to be able to coach.
So you said during your time at South Sydney, you learn a lot of lessons and you feel like you're a better coach now. So how are you different? What's different about this Jason to the South Sydney Jason Demetriou?
Yeah, I think I'm quite passionate as a coach. I get, I'm very invested in what I do, but just being able to stay emotionally in control of the way you're thinking and feeling at certain times. I think I've done a lot of work on that type of thing. And Matt, the thing about going NRL as a head coach is it's not just about coaching the footy team. It's huge in terms of managing a group of staff. We had 30-odd staff working for us, as well as 40-odd players, and all that type of stuff you take some lessons from as you get into it. But, yeah, I think for me it was just about going back and staying to what got me in that position. I'd worked hard to get I come back to Australia as a player who's never played in the NRL and end up being a head coach of one of the biggest clubs in the world. So, and that happened for a reason. It wasn't through luck. So, just getting back to trusting that and trusting what got you there in the first place. And I think like I said, it's you learn a lot from the good times, but you learn a hell of a lot more from the bad times. And as tough as it was, and it was tough. It was tough on my family, particularly. When things are said and all through social media and all that sort of stuff. So, but it also, it was never anything that made me stop wanting to be a coach. It was, okay, take the hits now and then we go again. And I'm just excited to be here and looking forward to getting stuck in with these players.
So as we know, 3 years with the London Broncos, what happens after that? Do you have ambitions to go back and be a head coach in the NRL?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm not content with how it finished. And I know I've got more to offer. And I showed that in my first 40 games in charge, like I said, with prelim final and top of the NRL table. And, there's things that you learn along the way and you want to take with you into your next gig. But, I think for me, it's the first priority is doing everything I can to make London successful and building this club up, not only on the field but off the field as well, and making sure that whenever that is, that I depart the club, and you're never going to be here forever. No one is. So when I go, I leave the club in a much better position than I found it. And if I can do that, then, but I'm not, for me, the opportunity to go to the NRL isn't just about going to the NRL. It's the right opportunity as well. And if the right one doesn't come, then I'm more than happy to be staying in London and building the club. And ultimately, we want to get in a Super League. That's what we're here for. We don't just want to be in Super League. We want to be in Super League. We want to be chasing finals and premierships. And I believe we can do that.
So for you to leave, if you leave, after 3 years with a smile on your face, a happy man, what does the London Broncos look like? You said that you want to leave it in a better place than you've arrived and the situation it's in at the minute. But what does that look like?
I think it's a club that has a strong academy that's developing its own from within London. Also think that it's a club that's passionate about putting the shirt on. Every time, and I said that before, like we won't be loaning players out. We've got ourselves in the reserve grade competition as well. And if you're assigned to London, then you're going to play for London. And I think that's really important for us down here. It's believing that and in the south, and no one wants us in the comp. That's a fact, and the people with other people within the game do, but the clubs don't. And you can see that, and that needs to change.
How do we change that though? That is what is the big challenge. How do we change that mentality, that way of thinking?
We need to start thinking bigger. And Peter V'landys has been a great example of that in Australia. What he's done in the game and what he's focused on in terms of audience, and it's always been about driving TV revenue and driving audiences that the TV revenue generates, So for us in the north particularly, we're still fixated with that extra few thousand that come to a game. Our game is such a great product for TV. It is a product that it's so hard to get people to come and watch because the visual of it on TV is so good. My own opinion is we need to grow the numbers of people who want to watch the sport. And to do that, we need to take it to new audiences. And if you look in the NRL over the last 30 years, every few years the competition has grown. It goes back to Canberra Raiders coming in, Brisbane Broncos coming in, North Queensland Cowboys, New Zealand Warriors. Yeah. It has continued to expand its market. And, we need to do that over here. And we need to believe that the market's there for us to expand and start driving some positivity around the game and the sport itself, because it has got so much to offer.
A lot of talk about the NRL's influence, their interest in perhaps coming in and doing something with Super League. How big would that be if it happens?
Oh, it'd be huge. At the moment, the game needs some support from someone with some big, what's the word? Some prestige behind it. And the NRL has that. It's, it's relationship. Obviously, Fox Sports have huge investors in the NRL, and the game needs to generate more revenue through pay TV and through TV. So having NRL support that and be on board with it would be massive. And like I said, what Peter's done, not only in NRL, what he's done in horse racing, he knows how to grow the game. And if he's putting his hand up to say he's interested in supporting the game, then we need to take it with both hands and listen to what they potentially can offer, because he wouldn't be doing it if he didn't believe the game can be strong in England. Yeah. The game needs a strong English game, and not just English but European game. You know, it's great to see Toulouse in. My old mate Sylvain Hules, who I played with at Wakefield and been in regular contact with over the years. I mean, they've done the hard yards, and they still do the hard yards. You know, financially they're going to do it tougher than other clubs, but to have a team like that who's people are willing to back to support to get into Super League, we're going to embrace that a bit more. Yeah.
Well, I do know that discussions have taken place with the NRL and Super League, so just a waiting game, isn't it? Yeah. We'll see what happens, but that is just about time. Jason, thank you so much for coming on the bench. We cannot wait to see the influence you have on the London Broncos, and we cannot wait to see the London Broncos, fingers crossed, up in Super League come 2027.
Thanks, Jenna.
Thank you.